Thank you. I don't think that we'll be able to solve all the questions you raised in the next 45 minutes, but I think we'll move from the general perspective we had yesterday and this morning on the big issues and what would be the role of a Center for Advanced Study in these questions, and try to be a little bit more practical here. And with my colleagues, I will kind of introduce some basic principles for an Institute for Advanced Study, and Mario, Thorsten, and Philippe will have a chance to comment and be much more precise than I will be in my introduction, touching upon some of the questions I will raise, and as I hope providing some of the answers. But I think it's really a starting point of a discussion. You've done quite a lot of work, you, Vedran, and Petar, to bring CAS to this point, and I think there's still some questions to be solved and principles to be adopted in order to make this a well-functioning Center for Advanced Study. We don't know whether we'll meet in 5 years from now or in 10 years from now. Yesterday wasn't clear about the temporality of this, but we'll meet in the near future. I think, first of all, to tackle these issues in order to be able to meet in 5 or 10 years from now. I will speak in, I would say, 4 different capacities very briefly. Over the past 6-7 years, I've been the head of the French network for Institute for Advanced Study. It's a foundation that has been built by the French government. It's a private foundation that helps and supports the development of 4 Institutes for Advanced Study in France, in Paris, Lyon, Marseille, and Nantes. But I'm also, as I said yesterday, the Secretary General of the network of European Institute for Advanced Study called NETIAS, and NETIAS regroups 18 Institute for Advanced Study in Europe, and we have a fellowship program, a pan-European fellowship program that puts together 14 institutes out of the 18 together, called EURIAS. That's the third one here. It's the EURIAS fellowship program, and we've received support from the European Commission in 2010, a 2 million grant, and again in 2013, a 6 million grant to organize fellowship mobility within Europe. And I didn't put this here, but I'm also part of the steering committee of a larger network called UBIAS, the university-based Institute for Advanced Study that regroups 37 institutes, not only in Europe, but also in Brazil, India, South Africa, and China. So I will draw the few comments I will share with you is based on this accumulated experience, and but I'm not running like Thorsten an Institute for Advanced Study myself, so it will be much more precise on some of the topics I will just touch upon. Basically, and in order to come down to practical questions, but that are heavy practical questions, I would like to just focus on 3 key elements for the Center for Advanced Study Southeast Europe to take into consideration to become a fully fledged Institute for Advanced Study. And it is based on the NETIAS, this network, even the translation agrees, based on the NETIAS membership criteria we adopted in 2011. In order to, because one comment just before we move to the 3 principles is that Institute for Advanced Study it's a name, it's not a label. So a lot of people have developed a Center for Advanced Studies or Institute for Advanced Studies, and in fact they are extremely diverse. And we try at the NETIAS to come down in order to clarify a little bit what we intend by Institute for Advanced Study. The Princeton model in the 30s, then developed in Wassenaar, in Berlin, in Uppsala, in Jerusalem. There are some core elements that make something an Institute for Advanced Study, and other very valuable international initiatives or multidisciplinary initiatives, but something that would be different from an Institute for Advanced Study. And it's not to say that something that would be multidisciplinary or international, but would not be an Institute for Advanced Study, would be of a lower value, not at all. It's just like we try to be a bit more precise and to try to focus, especially if you take the name Center for Advanced Study, you have one in Sofia, has exactly the same name. It's just try to figure out whether these principles that we'll just show now are really close, and in that case, I know that they are close to what you have in mind, but this is a kind of roadmap for the next month, or weeks or month, to maybe try to take into consideration. So the first one of these key elements, and I underline the substantive or the adjective that I will explain in a minute. So it's scientific autonomy to pursue an innovative and ambitious scientific project. And I will talk very briefly on the two, and I'll start with the project. I think here we're talking an Institute for Advanced Study. I would have put ambition, but it was already innovative and ambitious. So an ambitious ambition is a little bit strange. So it's a project. These are not collections of programs. An Institute for Advanced Study is not some topics that you want to investigate in 2 or 3 years and concentrate on highly specific thematic issues. An Institute for Advanced Study has, I don't like the word vision, because, but has an intellectual and scientific ambition. It has an identity. It can be rooted on some big, I would say, epistemological, methodological, or thematic questions. It can be anchored on this. But it's not a collection of topics and short-term programs. Because it's a different type of, and I will come with my second principle. But it's really bringing people together to discuss not only of one tiny question or one tiny topic, but to bring people in an intellectual and scientific environment that would be multidisciplinary and international, and that would move whatever the topic they're working on, that will move their understanding and open their understanding of their own work, but also increase the understanding of others in terms of methodology, epistemology, and then possible room for collaboration. So it's a project, it's not a collection of programs. And here, Erhard Busek left, unfortunately, but you have already in the brochure a list of 10 to 12 I think interesting research themes or topics, and he added at least 6 or 7 before that. Very important topics. It gives, I think, a flavor or the idea of an identity. I think it should not be declined or specified into already packaged themes, but giving an idea of the types of questions and research you want to see take place at CAS, and here it will be at CAS and not in Rijeka, because we know that it's a regional initiative, and I think it is really a singular characteristic, because we see a lot of different institutes for advanced study in Europe. We've not seen yet an institute for advanced study that will be based in different cities, or they would have a core, maybe, activity in Rijeka, but as I understood the project, fellows will be sent in Ljubljana, in Novi Sad, in Belgrade, in Sarajevo, in Pristina, in Zagreb, so, and maybe even, I understood, maybe on a larger regional basis, maybe to Trieste, and even to a larger extent to Istanbul. It's really something that you have to think how it will work, and it will be my second point on the collegiality and the learning community that you have. But let me stress on the project one more thing, is it is very important that this takes place, that the project is rooted in the region, but it should not be a geographical or regional project. That the questions and the issues, the identity, the scientific and intellectual identity of the institute, of the center, will not be only focused and devoted to the study of local and regional issues. I think the themes that you have already put forward, but I think the global understanding of these issues will be and should be attractive to people who are not experts of the region, but are facing similar issues in a totally different context. I just take one example. Let's say reconciliation after war. or after civil unrests. It would be extremely interesting at some point that here you have something extremely interesting, but someone from Colombia or from South Africa could come here, not to become a scholar working on the region, but would provide a different take on a similar topic. And then here the room for a fruitful exchange will be extremely high, and then the center will be attractive for a long period, because otherwise you will exhaust in 2, 3, 4, 5 years all the experts who want to come here and will be happy to spend a semester or two, a sabbatical year in the region. But after 3, 4 years, I've seen that in an institute I founded in Prague. After 3 or 4 years, it was in 1991. At the time, that was exciting because there was a post-socialist transition. But after 3 or 4 years, once the people from the émigrés but other the scholars working in the States, in the UK, in France, in Germany came, we had exhausted a little bit the agenda, and that's something that you should not, I think, or you should try to avoid. I will be much quicker on all the other topics, but this one to me is central because it's the identity, it's the intellectual and scientific identity that is rooted on your topics and on geography, but should not be exhausted by that. The second one, autonomy. I touched upon yesterday this question very quickly, and I will be very brief. It needs, and I think you have already reached and made a lot of effort into that direction, a kind of calibrated equilibrium. It's the notion I used yesterday in my speech, a calibrated equilibrium between autonomy, scientific autonomy. This means that the board of scientific directors, the 3 people here, will have the autonomy at the end of the day to select fellows or to come to the institute. Obviously based on the call for application, peer review, and so on. But at the end of the day, it's a selection that will rest on the scientific direction of the institute. And it's extremely important that you have this scientific autonomy, because that's the possibility to have an adequacy between your scientific objectives or the vision or the identity of your institute and the actual fellowship policy or the invitation policy of future fellows. And it is something that is extremely important. But this autonomy, I said calibrated equilibrium, because on the one hand you have autonomy, but you are, on the other hand you have to establish firm institutional relationships with higher education and research institutions or organizations, because then it will give you the possibility, while being autonomous, to embark into a very productive collaboration or cooperation with the partners. So it has to, I don't get into the details now, but you've made quite a lot of progress into that direction, but I think it's a really crucial element. Yesterday, I think it was I don't remember who said that thing, with Erhard Busek, who said to Perolucin, the rector, it's based in Rijeka, but it's not the Center for Advanced Study of the University of Rijeka. It's not a university-based institute for advanced study. It's not the CAS of Rijeka. Otherwise, the other rector of Novi Sad will say, okay, it's your institute, then you pay for it, and you have your fellows, and if there's someone interesting, I will make him come to Novi Sad. But the idea of the regional dimension will be lost, and the collaboration behind that will be lost, and will be my third point. So, scientific autonomy to pursue, obviously innovative and ambitious. You don't have to rehash what has been done in Vienna on democracy, or you don't have to rehash what the Wissenschaftskolleg zu Berlin or NIAS has been doing over the past 10 or 15 years, but this is not a major problem. Second thing, collegiality in a multidisciplinary and international learning communities. I go very quickly on that, but there are some very important notions here. Multidisciplinary international, that's obvious, but I underline that because it's not a Max Planck Institute working and gathering lawyers to work on the rule of law and the transition of law in different contexts. It's a multidisciplinary environment. It's international, that's obvious. you're about to bring international fellows, international scholars to the institute, to the center. And learning communities is related to collegiality, in a sense. But you have, and here you have a specific difficulty because you will scatter. It's a strength, but it could be a drawback. And you have really to address, and we discussed that with Thorsten and Peta in Paris early September, how can you create a collegiality when people will be actually, over a semester or a 10-month period, spend most of their time in different locations and different places. And you have to be innovative here in order to figure out how maybe there is a 2-week stay together where they present their work and they discuss, they exchange the perspectives, they're kind of forced to read each other, and then they move to the different places and maybe meet once or twice during their time in order to build something together. It's that will not send a demographer to Novi Sad and a sociologist to Belgrade, and then they will meet 10 months later. It would be of high value for the universities and it would be a highly valuable scheme, but it will not be an Institute for Advanced Study. So really think about the mechanisms that will foster collegiality, because collegiality is behind the idea of learning community. Learning community was the former rector of the Wissenschaftskolleg zu Berlin, Wolf Le Penis, said, well, we really, it's a critical dialogue across disciplines. We have to listen to each other, we have to read each other, and we have to spend some time together. Otherwise, you won't have the community effect and you will have the learning effect. Third one, I hope I'm not too long. I'm too long, okay. So, third one, financial sustainability. And here you have, I underlined the two terms because the two terms are extremely important. Financial and sustainability. Financial, we have to tell the truth. These are costly initiatives. Because you need a building, you need housing capacities, you need a team, you need to invite scholars. And here I would like to, it's related to the second and third point. We have a threshold at NETIAS. We said a minimum standard for invitation is 120 fellow months per year. So, to be less cryptic, let's say you have 6 persons for 10 months, and 6 persons during the first semester, and 6 persons during the second semester. So it's 60 plus 30 plus 30, it's 120. This means that you have 12 people during the first semester, and it's the minimum to have a community, some kind of collegiality. If you have 3 persons, then it's not enough. You won't be able to create that. But you need to, and we know that it's costly. We know it's costly to invite fellows, it's costly to have the scientific accompaniment that will make their stay valuable at the research level. So we know it's costly. So financial aspect, and I tried yesterday night to bug all the ministers, and because it's nice to have a pledge and say we're interested, and even though Vedran say you are friends, they have to be paying friends or contributing friends, and not only saying it's a very nice initiative, and they can send letter of support, but they have to actually materialize this type of support. University of Rijeka has given a support, but it has to be, and it's related to my second point, sustainability. It's a requirement that we have in our membership criteria that obviously today not a single institute, maybe the Wissenschaftskolleg zu Berlin, is sustainable, but even NIAS in the Netherlands, they faced a 40 budget cut, unexpected, and it creates some kind of uncertainty. But you need to be able to work, or you have to be able to work in a 3-5 year time horizon, because this invitation policy, it's not that you invite people to come next month. You have to plan ahead at least 15 or 18 months ahead of time for a 1 year period. So this means that your horizon is at minimum 2.5 years or 3 years. If you don't know if you have the budget in 3 years from now, you cannot invite people because they will end their stay in 3 years from now. So sustainability is extremely important in terms of the amount of funding. That's one point. And you should be here looking at some kind of equilibrated, again, tour de table at the financial level. Local, national, European, I don't touch upon that, international. You should try to make all the stakeholders involved, not have a controlling partner that would say, it's my institute, but have a group of supporters, of stakeholders that really support the Center for Advanced Study. And this is important because this, I would say, local or national universities, ministries, foundations, European Commission, they will all be stakeholders, and this will relate to the scientific autonomy I was talking at the very beginning. It's because you will have a diversified financial structure that you will be able to be scientifically autonomous. So it's la boucle est bouclée in a sense. You really have to think in these terms, and as I understood I would be a kind of vice president of the board of trustees, I will help you into that direction in order to have a financial structure that will help you build the scientific autonomy and build a successful Center for Advanced Study. Thank you.